Hey everybody, Argent here. So I'm at the last stop on my trip, which is Cordoba. So after this, I'll be heading to Madrid and taking a plane back home. So people have been periodically asking me about my trip, so I figured I'd give a kind of a summary video. So I went all over Spain. Let's see, I went to Madrid, Pamplona, Bilbao, San Sebastian, Barcelona, Granada, Seville, Gibraltar, and Valencia. So if I had to kind of think about it, which was the best and which was the worst, I'd say maybe the best place I went was Gibraltar, which I guess is kind of random because it's only a half-day thing, but the rock is amazing. It's huge, and they've built tunnels all through it. Yeah, there's tunnels all throughout it. You can see where they've tunneled in and built like cannon areas where they would stick guns out of the rock. How you're supposed to attack a frickin' mountain that's been hollowed out and has cannons sticking out of it, I don't know. It's just really neat because like I had to use my passport to cross the border. It's just bizarre to be in Spain one minute and then be in Britain where everything's paid for in pounds and everyone's speaking with British accents. And it really made me feel pride. As I've said on this several times before, I'm very proud of my Anglo heritage. I really, yeah, I'm very proud of it. I identify as being English. Well, English-Canadian, and seeing that the Empire still has some overseas possessions made me just feel really good. Let me think, what are some other really good places? Barcelona is really nice. There's a lot of cool things to see there. Sagrada Familia is as majestic as it looks. Gaudi is an interesting man. If you ever go to Barcelona, I suggest taking a Gaudi architecture tour. Sandy Man does a good one. Just, he has a number of buildings throughout the city, and whether you like his style or not, it's very interesting. Gaudi himself was probably autistic, and I don't say that like in an ironic way. Historians are pretty sure he was autistic. And he was also exceedingly religious. When he was younger, he pursued a QT for like 10 years, and when he finally asked her to marry him, she said no and ran off with a carpenter. And then he said to God that he would marry God if God would make him the greatest architect of the world. And however you feel about him, he did attain a lot of notoriety. Gaudi's really what Barcelona is known for. Barcelona also has a really amazing art museum. It's up on the hill, and I think a former palace or something. It's got a very large collection of Baroque art, Catalan art, of course. Catalan art's interesting because Catalan modernism doesn't really look like other forms of modernist art. It looks a lot older. I don't really know how to describe it. But it is an interesting kind of unique style. Sorry, I picked up illness while on the trip. You know, unfamiliar bacteria. I probably got it on the plane. Planes are notorious for picking up illnesses just because you have a lot of people in an enclosed space. So, yeah, so that's interesting in Barcelona. Where kind of some other highlights, Granada is a really interesting city because the whole city's basically a fortress. It was built on, well, it's built on the side of a really steep hill, or it might be a mountain, I'm not sure how to classify it. But just the streets are extremely narrow. It's got a population of like 300,000 people, despite appearing to be very tiny. The Alhambra, I think, lives up to its reputation. It's absolutely massive. It's like the size of a small town. The gardens alone are huge. I was there on a tour for like 2.5 hours, and we had to just run through everything just because it was so big. and there really wasn't enough time. You could spend days there and still not see everything. So yeah, the Alhambra is, I think, is entirely justified how much fame it gets. Granada is also just kind of a cool city. Something I noticed though as I was going through is a lot of cities in Spain, because the downtown is so dense, like all the historic stuff is right next to each other. Sorry about that. At least outside of Madrid and Barcelona, where things are a bit more spread out, you can do most of it in a day or two. Like, it's not too hard to just see the highlights, go to a museum or two, and then leave. So what other cities were good? Madrid is really good. Madrid has the most museums because it's the national capital. A couple highlights. The Prada, I think it's called, is an excellent museum. It's one of the best museums in the world. It's considered to be the Spanish version of the Louvre, and I would tend to agree with that. If you're in that area, there's the Naval Museum, which I didn't even know existed. I was just looking around and there happened to be it. It was only €3 to go in, and they had an excellent selection of like guns and swords and stuff like that. So that was interesting. There's an archaeology museum, which I forget, it was very inexpensive as well to go into, and they had some interesting stuff. The China Economy Strong video I did here was there. There's the other one whose name escapes me. Thessi, whatever, because there's like 3 museums. There's the Prada, which is like the older one. There's like the mid one, and then there's the modern one, and I went to all 3. Sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. What else was there? What are some other cool cities? Granada's pretty cool, but it's very compressed. Like, just behind me is the Mosquito, or whatever they call it, which is the mosque they turned into a church. And seeing that only takes like half an hour if you're going at like a fairly cautious pace. The Jewish quarter is like 5 minutes away. The Roman bridge is right in front of me. I saw the Inquisition Museum earlier today, which was only €3, and the Archaeology Museum, which if you're here, it's a bargain. It's only €1.50, and it gives you just kind of a history of Cordoba as a settlement and some stuff about the Romans, etc. So that was neat. Tours in Spain are kind of a mixed bag. Oh, I guess I'll just finish going through the cities. Don't go to Valencia. Valencia sucks. It's sketchy and there's not much to see there other than the cathedral. Granada is cool. It also has, I think it's, oh geez, I'm losing my mind here. Sorry, I'm still pretty sick. I think it's Granada has, no, Seville. Seville has one of the largest, I think, yeah, the largest Gothic cathedral in the world. So that was pretty neat. Zaragoza and I also went to with the Alcazar. So I get Zaragoza and Saragossa mixed up. This is a terrible video. Yeah, so Barcelona's good, Madrid's good, Granada's good. Seville is another city you can probably do in a day or two. I was kind of disappointed I couldn't go to bullfighting. I got to go to the bullfighting arena, which was pretty cool, and I went on a tour there. The trip kind of changed my perspective on bullfighting. I used to be against it, but now I'm very much for it. So bullfighting was interesting. In southern Spain, the whole place is just covered in fountains. Like, if you just look over there, there's just a random fountain. The Moors really set up a lot of aqueducts, and it's, I guess it's part of their religion and part of their culture to have fountains everywhere so they can clean themselves before prayers. But no, Moorish architecture is pretty cool. There's a lot of parts of Spain where they've blended it. Like, that's kind of a combo of different types of architecture there. I'm just looking at the Roman bridge across the river here in Granada. So let me think. So we have that. So yeah, so Madrid's good for museums. The Royal Palace there, I think it's a kind of a take it or leave it. If you've been to I forget what the other palace is. The Belvedere? I didn't really research this very well. There's 2 royal palaces in Vienna. The Hofburg, which is a take it or leave it. And there's the other one, which I call the B-grade Versailles. And the one in Spain was, sorry, in Madrid was the C-grade Versailles. So it's kind of a just, if you've been to the other 2, it's not really that important. Museums in Spain are definitely worth going to. They're pretty cool. Madrid in general is just an interesting place. Just keep in mind, Spain is a very decentralized country, so regional culture and architecture varies wildly. The different parts of the country are even called autonomous regions. Basque Country was interesting. Bilbao I describe as kind of a sleepy city. Basque Country is very beautiful. It's extremely lush. It rains all year. I think the Stormlands are based on northern Spain. It's also very wealthy compared to the rest of the country. But yeah, Bilbao's another city you can do in a day. I wouldn't recommend going to the Guggenheim. I didn't actually go there. I didn't have like a ton of time, so I had to choose between it and the Fine Art Museum. I went to the Fine Art Museum. It actually wound up, I just got lucky and it was free to go in. And they had a very large display of Basque art. And Basque painters actually do have a definitive style, which I was happy to find out. They tend to outline figures and objects, either with black or with whatever color they're using. So there's like a very definitive outline. At least that's what I noticed, but I kind of feel if you're going to go to, excuse me, sorry, Basque Country, and you're going to go try and like look at how the way the Basques work and the Basque culture, you might as well go see Basque art and not see like crappy postmodernist stuff at the Guggenheim, which is frankly an eyesore. Yeah, Bilbao's not like, the downtown core is pretty interesting. They're trying to make it into like a hipster place. Bilbao seems like the kind of city to me that would be really enjoyable to live in, but isn't the best place to visit. Whereas like Barcelona is the opposite. So what are some other thoughts on the trip? Something I've learned, and if you come here I'm sure you'll agree, the best place to buy anything in Spain is at supermarkets. Now they aren't as large obviously as in North America, just because Spain's a lot more dense and a lot more urban. But if you can find one that's more than just like a guy at a counter, like actually has some aisles, you can get really good deals. If you want to find a market, if you have Google Maps, and here's another tip, if you go to Spain you can get data for really cheap. For 20 euros I got 3.5 gigs for a month, valid for a month. 3.5 gigs is all you need unless you're dumb like me and on the long bus rides you watched YouTube videos and ran the amount down, but 20 euros is nothing. In Canada that would be like 70-80 bucks. So that's a bargain. So definitely do that. So just pop in supermarket or food mart, and normally they'll even have a picture on Google Maps. You can find one that's actually decent size. If you go there, you can get like 1.5 liters of water for like €1.50. No, sorry, not €1.50, like 75 cents or like 50 cents. You can get like chocolate bars for less than €1. You can get baguettes for like 70 cents. Soft drinks there, like if you want a can of something, that's like 65 cents. It's all very inexpensive to get anything at a supermarket. So like in a touristy area it might cost like 2 euros. Actually bottled water isn't that bad, but it might cost like €1 to €1.50 to get like 500 milliliters. If you go a street over, you'll find a supermarket and you can get 1.5 liters for €1.50. And it's really important to keep hydrated, because even though I'm here in the fall so it's not too hot, the sun is really intense in Spain, and even if the actual temperature isn't that bad, you can get dehydrated really easily just from how intense the sun is. The weather here is beautiful. I recommend if you go in the fall. the temperature's pretty consistently like 17 to 23, kind of in that range. It kind of is 20 plus or minus 5, which is short and t-shirt weather, and it's just very pleasant. It's fairly dry here, so the climate's pretty mild. The weather is absolutely gorgeous here. Don't come in the summer though. Granada and Seville will go up to like 46, and for most of us that's just too damn hot, especially if you come from Canada. There were some people from Australia and they got cold at like 15 degrees, and for me it was nice. Let me think, what else is there? Right, so yeah, so go to supermarkets, they're good. I'd say the food is probably the most disappointing part of the trip. Spanish food, I didn't have a particularly high reputation, high opinion of, and this didn't really change my mind much. Basically, if you go to most parts of Spain, all they have is tapas. And in New York, they have pinchos, which is basically the same thing as tapas. Now, what is tapas? Tapas is, in my view, a scam. Basically, it's a la carte. A tapas ranges from 3 to 12 euros, and it's like a little appetizer. It might be a couple croquettes, maybe some fried calamari. Just picture any one-off appetizer, and that is a tapas. So if you want to get full, you might have to buy like 3 or 4 or 5, and at some places they'll be like 8 euros a piece. So they don't have just normal dinners. Like in North America, if I go to Swiss Chalet or something, I'll get chicken, a roll, a baked potato, and sometimes some veggies. Even if you go to a non, like American style restaurant, like you go to, I don't know, even like a kebab place, you'll be able to get a meal that's like rice, meat, and salad. In Spain, everything is just frickin' tapas, and it's overpriced. I don't think it's very good. There's that, then there's sandwiches, which I just got really tired of, because it seems like all the Spanish eat is pork, and more pork. They have jamon, or hamon, or however you pronounce it, which is a bit like prosciutto. It's aged ham, and it's cool the first couple times, but you realize they put it on absolutely everything, and chorizo they put on absolutely everything. So between the two of those, that's, like, if I had to describe Spanish cuisine, I'd say it's appetizers, sweets, and pork. They seem to eat very little vegetables in their diet, and not even very much fruit. Maybe it's just out of season, but it was a struggle to find places that had salads. I had to go to like McDonald's a couple times to find a place that has salad. In the couple places that do have salads, it's just much, much more expensive than like a meat dish. Like a salad might be like $8.50, whereas, I don't know, like a big plate of ham is like 5 euros. So take that for what it's worth. I didn't really see tortilla that often. Tortilla is a Spanish omelet which has like potato, egg, and onion in it, and often some other stuff. If you drink, you'll have a good time in Spain, because you can get beers for like 50 cents here, and bottles of wine. You can get wine coolers at supermarkets for like 50 cents as well. It's extremely inexpensive. So for a lot of people, that'll probably be a good thing. I don't drink, so I can't really take advantage of that. But yeah, it can be rough to get food here, because as with most European countries, restaurants are open at weird times. So they're open from like noon to 4, and then they open again at like 7 or 8. So as a North American, I normally eat dinner between 5 and 7. So it's just weird. So a couple times I just go to a supermarket and get chips or get bread or something, which isn't healthy, but it's not really healthier than what you'll get at most Spanish restaurants. My guess is the reason obesity isn't higher here is just that people walk more. They have the standard EU restrictions on GMO, chemicals, that kind of stuff. And just a lot of people smoke here, so that probably helps out a lot. So the food is not great. Public transit in Spain is excellent, bizarrely enough. Madrid has good public transit. Barcelona has amazing public transit, especially if you have Google Maps. It's very easy to figure it out. The bus drivers know what they're doing. The routes are logical, and it's fairly inexpensive. It's just, if it seems expensive, it's just because you're from a country that has a bad exchange rate like myself. So it's normally like €1.25 or something to buy a ticket. And you can get like a pack of tickets for a reasonable price. Like I think in Barcelona it was €8 for 10 or something like that, which is perfectly fine. It's better than taking cabs. They even have a subway system in a lot of Spanish cities, which I was kind of surprised by that Granada had one. But that just shows how bad Canada is for that kind of thing. Then again, I guess it's easy when your whole city is like 100th the size of Toronto, even if the population is only half as much. Most people in the service industry speak a little English here. Even so, it's not too hard a lot of the time. Like if you're going to a supermarket, I mean, it's the same all over the world. You throw a bunch of stuff in your cart, you go, they scan it, they show you the number and the cash, you hand over the money, or use your credit card and you leave. Pretty basic. It doesn't matter if they speak no Spanish and you speak no... If they speak no English and you speak no Spanish, it's just pretty straightforward. You can normally figure stuff out with gesturing, hand signs, that kind of thing. But compared to like Austria, not that many people speak English very well. Spain is a lot more developed than Italy. In Italy, it's kind of hard to explain. Just stuff is less clean. It's less kind of modern. Like the public transit system there is less developed. If you go to like a hotel, it's very hard to explain. But Spain just feels a lot more like a first world country than Italy does. It just feels cleaner, more modern, more upkept. Kind of the old areas they preserve, but they really, I don't know, it's very hard to describe. If you've been to both countries, you probably know what I mean. But it even feels more modern in some ways than a lot of France. It is a nice country. I'm glad I came here. It was a good vacation. I'll have to say though, maybe I'm like the only person who will admit to this, but I like North America. I like living there. I look forward to getting back. Not that I don't appreciate being here, but get back to where I know what I'm buying, where people speak English. Well, I live in Toronto, so some people speak English. Where things are open most of the day, with greater values placed on efficiency and convenience. Just that kind of thing. I think there can be a balance between kind of the Mediterranean desire to relax and the Anglo desire to work yourself to death. But it goes a bit too far in the former direction here for my taste. I kind of miss the get it done now, can-do attitude of North America. Eventually I'd like to move to a less paused part of North America, but those are kind of my thoughts on my trip. If you want me to do a video on anything specific, let me know and I'll do one. Otherwise, I have a couple more vlogs I'll put up. As always, love you guys. Talk to you later. God bless.